Hi, hello, and welcome to another video, and the third Advent video, which is not exactly what I had planned. And I have way too many devices on my desk right now. Wait, I have to reorganize. There we go. So this video was originally not supposed to be a talking video. Was gonna be more like last week's video, where I've edited something together with music. Specifically, it was going to be a Lucia talk, which is relevant because during this past week, specifically on Friday, the day I'm recording this, the 13th of December, is Lucia here in Sweden. And I'm sorry, I need water. Okay, so Lucia here is it's a celebration. It's on the 13th of December, and I want to talk a bit about it instead of having the traditional Lucia talk together with my club and recording it. Because some things have come up, and we want people to do that, so this is a compromise where I get to talk about how we celebrate it here, but I've also done a little tiny bit of research into the history of Lucia, and it was actually quite interesting. As well as the person herself, because Lucia is a saint. I think her English name is Saint Lucy, but in Swedish we keep her original Italian name, or Latin name, I guess, because as you're going to get into, she lived during Roman times, during pre-Christian Roman times. And by pre-Christian I mean before the Roman Empire was Christian. In the year 300. So I've already started there a bit, but I think I'm gonna save that for last, because there are some quite dark parts to her story, and also the accounts differ depending on where you get them from. So I think I'm gonna save that for last. I'm gonna start with how we celebrate Lucia here in Sweden, and for us, Lucia is a celebration of light. I'm gonna do the northern lights while we talk about this, because my horse is level 15. It's a celebration of light, and it takes place 11 nights before Christmas, where people come together. It can be in your school, at your workplace, or in a church after work or school if it's on a weekday. Because we will celebrate it the day of. It's not a holiday in the sense that you have time off from school or work. It's not what we in Sweden call a red day. Those are calendar holidays, essentially. But it is a holiday that we celebrate, even if it's on a weekday, it's still a normal day. But you celebrate it, you have something called a Lucia tåg. And, you walk in a train, essentially. Oh, is that in... Yeah, it is. I'm running the wrong direction. You walk in something called a Lucia tåg, which is a train. It's or a procession. Procession? I think you say procession. But we call them tåg, which means trains. Where the person walking in front is Lucia. And she would be dressed something like this, dressed in an old school nightgown. Everyone in this train, if it's a very traditional one, everyone would be dressed in a nightgown. In some places, depending on how traditional you want it to be, you can also have people dressed as gingerbread men and women, and you can have people dressed as Santas and Mrs. Claus. But if we're gonna stick to the very traditional one, which, as I'm gonna get into later, only have roots as far back as the early 1900s, meaning it's a little bit over 100 years, which is the modern Lucia celebration we have today. Everyone wears these, what we today call Lucia nightgowns, but these are just traditional nightgowns, the type of nightgowns that in the early 1900s and earlier than that everybody would have been sleeping in. nightgowns used to be sleepwear for everybody. It was not no matter your gender. So, and I'm so sorry. I have been up for a while. I have eaten and everything. I still sound like I haven't, like, been awake for more than, like, 3 seconds. This is so weird. I'm gonna take some more water. Is it following me? Yeah, I think so. I think the problem is that I live alone, so I don't talk as much before I'm recording, and when I'm not recording than when I am recording, so that's why I sound like this. But yeah, I got off topic. So you wear these nightgowns, and Lucia will always wear a red ribbon around her waist, and a crown. Oh, don't wake him. Don't wake him. Nice. Do we have anything else in here? No, I'm gonna cough pick up then. And she will wear a crown with candles on it. And for example, if young children, like people at things like kindergarten or in preschool, they will have electrical candles that are run on batteries with no real flame. There are lights. But older people, like teenagers, will have actual live candles in their hairs. For example, in my school, in junior high and high school, there was always live candles. And also, my voice really disappears. I was a scout growing up, and I really don't know what happened to my voice. I should have gotten a cup of tea, but I was like, my voice is fine today. It's not. But I was a scout, and we also did our own Lucia tåg, and where family and friends and just other people could come and watch for free, and then you could buy some fika afterwards. And we had both younger people. Sorry, I really don't know what's going on with my voice. I think I fixed it now. But we had the younger people, usually towards the back of the train, and they would have the battery-driven candles, because you hold candles as well, if you're not Lucia, or not Lucia as well. You will hold a candle in your hand. And older people have live, real candles with real flame, and younger people will have ones with batteries, because that's dangerous. So... I lost train of thought. But yeah, Lucia would wear a crown of live candles, and that's what we had, because you had to be in at least, I think... You had to be at least in 9th grade to be allowed to be Lucia there, because of the dangers of carrying so many live candles on top of your head. And I have had the great honor of being Lucia there twice. Because when I was younger, when I was 15 and when I was 16. No, wait, when I was 16 and when I was 17. You had to be at least in first year of high school, so the year after 9th grade, actually, sorry. You had to be in at least high school there, they deemed to be safe, and I was for 2 years in a row, because there was nobody else who was old enough who wanted to be. There were other people who wanted to be Lucia, but they weren't old enough. I was like, I've already done my year. I was like, I don't have to do another one. But then they were like, well, the only other person who's old enough don't want to be Lucia. Would you mind being it again? And then I asked her, and she was like, yeah, I don't want to have the candles on my head. I don't want to be in the center. I don't want to have read so many verses, which you had to read a lot of verses when you were Lucia. Where we were celebrating. I'm very off topic. But yeah, and you usually then like walk in and you sing some songs. And this is my second time recording this video. I recorded this yesterday when I was super tired. I had exams yesterday when I'm recording this. I woke up like 3 hours before dawn, and I was running on like 3 hours of sleep. I was so out of it. I barely even knew my own name, and I was starting to listening back through the recording, and I was like, yeah, this is not working. I want to re-record this when I'm more awake. So that's what I'm doing today. After a long good night's sleep. I've slept for like 11 hours. But yeah, so in that video I start off with singing. And if anyone want to hear me tired out of my own mind failing to sing, let me know. I could probably make it like a YouTube short or a Instagram reel or something. If you want me to embarrass myself, I guess I will do that for you. Where am I even going? I'm supposed to go over here. But yeah, and you sing, and you usually sing that song when you walk in, and then you sing a bunch of other songs. Sometimes you read verses, and then you walk out again singing the same first song again. That's usually about Lucia. So yeah, there's a lot of singing, and then there's a lot of fika, and that's how we celebrate it today. And the one in front is Lucia, dressed like this. How the rest is dressed depends on the traditional. I've already talked about when you have a more modern one, you might have people dressed as gingerbreads and Santas. Oh, let's open today's gift. Wonder what we get today. Ooh, yeah, it's a redeem code. It should still work when I post the video. I think it's Eric and Nisse. I've seen it on Instagram. There's also, I think, a code that's like 404 Nisse got found. If anyone is interested. So yeah. I'm just gonna do some dailies while we wait for next Northern Light. But the people who are not Lucia, because there will in most places only be one Lucia. When I was little in like daycare, then everybody got to be whatever they wanted, and we could have like 5 Lucias. But that was, I think, was because we were so young. So yeah. So I lost my train of thought. Yeah. So in the super traditional ones, or the more traditional ones, there will be one Lucia, and then women will dress as, because they're quite gender roles here, as in a lot of very traditional things. Will then be something called tärna, and I don't really know how you translate that in English. The only other time you come across this word that I can think of in Swedish is for brudtärna, and that's bridesmaid. But it doesn't mean maid or maiden, because we have other words for that. That's jungfru. So I don't know how to describe it, but they are called tärna, and they will also wear the nightgown like everybody else, and depending on where, in most places they will wear silver tinsel in their hair, and either the red ribbon around their waist, and then they will all wear it, or they will wear tinsel around the waist, and then all of them will wear tinsel. I think in the big one that will be, I guess, tonight, it's already been, I can't remember. TV usually there's this one on TV that you can watch. That's from the is it Storkyrkan in Stockholm? I think it's Storkyrkan, literally means the big church. There they will wear wreaths of leaf, because while this looks like a wreath with candles in it, the one we have in game, they are usually it is a metal core, and then you wrap leaves around it for it. And when I was Lucia, it was my job. Like, you would get the scout would provide the metal base that always had, and then you had to like measure it out so it was the size of your head, and then you would dress it in leaves yourself that you either bought or since my dad has a bit of forest, or my parents live in the forest, actually by the forest, and a bit of that forest is my dad's. It's like on our property, or my parents' property. I went out in the woods and picked my own leaves. Blueberry bushes, specifically. Off topic again. So this crown is very heavy. I can tell you that it's really hard to sing with while wearing it, because you have to stand like very, very kind of still with a very stiff, straight back. You have to have like the best posture of your entire life, because the crown is heavy, and you don't want to tip it. And you usually also wear a piece of cloth that is damp under the crown to both protect your hair from the wax that will drip down from the candles, but also it will keep your hair a bit damp, since hair is very flammable. And we performed this in a church as like a we got to host the Lucia in a church, and by every row of like the seats, where you like walked into the middle, and we would stand at the front and sing and then walk back out again. By every row of seats there was a bucket full of water, in case anything with all that open flame happened, where they could just like drench us in water. I've never seen that happen, but it could be a thing. So yeah, and then the other girls are tärnor. Some places like the one on TV, they usually wear wreaths and the red sash. Where I was from, when I was a tärna, which I was for obviously most of the years, I was a scout. I was a scout from that I was 7 till that I was 17, so 10 years. And I'm trying to do the math. That means 8 years. I was a tärna for 8 years. Then we would wear tinsel instead. I'm not going to do the races since I have level 15 horse. So yeah, and then the guys would be something called a stjärngosse, which would kind of translate to a star lad, I think. Gosse is a very old word for like a boy, so kind of a sense of like a lad or a star boy. And they wear also the nightgowns. They wear there can be slight differences in nightgowns. Usually they're all very straight and narrow and much longer than this. They will at least reach mid calf, but like top of your foot or even like dragging against the floor is not uncommon. You don't want it to drag too much on the floor. Obviously, you don't want to trip with fire in either your hand or on your head or both. When I was to say I had both. Because you have a little like paper plate or something like around the candle to catch wax so it doesn't drip down on your hands. And we have a lot of verses, and you don't want to and you want to be able to remember them, you can write them down on that paper plate. And usually you only have one verse, except Lucia has 5, where I was from. So I was like, I need to remember all of these. And the order. So yeah, I wanted to have both, so that I could have the little cheat sheet. Yeah, and the boys, they will usually be star boys. Let's do these things as well. They will be star boys, and they will wear the nightgown. It's also straight and narrow. They don't wear anything around their waist. And the difference is that sometimes in the women's around the collar and around the hem, and sometimes even like the hem on the cuffs, there will be lace, which usually isn't there on the masculine ones. That's essentially the only difference. So a lot of people would just like buy one, and then like your little siblings would go and inherit it, no matter if it was like matter their gender, no matter what model you had, because from a distance no one can tell. Everybody wears nightgowns then. And they will wear a little like cone-shaped hat with stars on it and have a stick with a star when they sing. So yeah, I think I've talked enough about like how we celebrate today. I want to talk a little bit about the history that I looked into about Lucia. So as I learned, that this way we celebrate today has been done for about 100 years, a little over 100 years, starting somewhere in the early 1900s in like western Sweden and like southwest Sweden, they kind of said. Specifically in the areas around Lake Vänern, which is the biggest lake here in Sweden. So that is places like it's obviously it's Bohuslän, it's Värmland, it's Västergötland, and I think it's Dalsland, maybe. It's not Dalarna at least, which this doesn't mean anything to you if you're not from here. But these are different like areas of Sweden, geographical, cultural areas of Sweden. And it started around there very long ago. I think already it has ties back to like medieval times, but the celebration and what it means and what the night means have changed a lot throughout the years. And a lot of that is because of in the 1700s, we in Sweden changed what calendar we were using. So in most of the Western world today, we use something called a Gregorian calendar. And this calendar decides like when the year starts and ends and when the dates are. So when I post this video, which will be for me Sunday the 15th of December 2024, if you also agree that I posted this on Sunday the 15th 2024 Central European time, might not be the case if you live, for example, in Australia. Then for you it might have been the 16th already, depending on when the day I post this. Then you also live in a place that has the Gregorian calendar. That's what I'm trying to get at. I think most of the Western world have, if not all of the Western world, and I think a lot of more other places as well, use the Gregorian calendar today. But Sweden, up until some time in the 1700s, used the Julian calendar, which was kind of standard back then. And this calendar, on this calendar, the midwinter solstice fell on the 13th of December, meaning that it was the longest night of the year, the darkest day of the year, with the least sunlight up here where the days are shorter during winter. And now with the Gregorian calendar, it falls on, is it the 21st or 22nd, depending on the year. And but we kept the celebration of Lucia on the 13th, even if it's no longer the longest and darkest day of the year. But it's considered midwinter, and in a sense, it is the winter equivalent of midsummer. Midsummer we celebrate the longest day of the year, and this is not so much originally the celebration, but the keeping guards or guarding yourself and people on the longest night of the year, because since it was the longest night of the year, it was believed in folklore that all these dark and powerful and dangerous beings and creatures would come out on this night and cause havoc, and you would stay up late at night to do something called lussevaka, which is interesting because another word for celebrating Lucia is called to lussa. So it probably has ties to that, but you would do something called lussevaka, and you would stay up all night and try to stay up all night to make sure that everyone was safe from all these dark creatures that could come out in the night. And that's also where Lucia as a saint comes in, because she and her holy light could protect you from these dark beings and creatures. Lucia is also considered historically to be the beginning of Christmas. Today would be when I'm recording this, when Christmas begins. It's 11 nights before Christmas. Here in Sweden, Christmas has, for as long as I'm aware at least, we've always celebrated Christmas on Christmas Eve and not on Christmas Day. So I'm stuck. Yeah, it's 11 nights before Christmas, and you're supposed to be done with all preparations for Christmas by day. traditionally. So all the baking and all the work, like all the other work you need to do at home, especially if you live on a farm. In Sweden, the big thing we eat on Christmas is ham. So you needed to have slaughtered your Christmas pig by today. Some people did it today, but it could be done after today. So yeah, your Christmas preparations are supposed to be done now, apparently. I learned. And yeah, but there's also been other celebrations. There were some celebrations that at some how do you say this? At some points in history, it would be like teenagers or children would dress up and go to all the other farms and houses and places people lived nearby, and they would sing in exchange for gifts and money. And I don't know exactly which time period this was. I don't know if I just forgot it. I have Wikipedia up to look at it, and it's like there's a lot of information. Yeah, it says in folklore, the 13th remained the darkest night of the year, even if it's no longer physically that. And that you were supposed to stay indoor and keep guard for all these dangerous things. You also believed that your animals could start talking on this longest night of the year. So I guess maybe stay up and listen. I guess it's too late for you now, but maybe I should stay up and listen and see if my cat will talk tonight. He already talks though. He's loud. So yeah, but also that like teenagers, children would dress up and they would go around to other farms and other houses and sing in exchange for gifts and money. And in some periods of time, it was also that you would dress up as the opposite gender and go sing to people for gifts and money, which I thought was very interesting because it's always been like very. But always you meet like old people, it's like, oh, and they're so strict gender roles and this thing, and the girls just like this and the boys just like that. Then you learn like a couple of 100 years ago, it would have been you were supposed to dress like the opposite gender. And that's interesting, how traditions change and then how people forget about them or aren't aware of them because they're obviously not old enough to witness something that people did several hundred years ago. But yeah, that's how it's originated in Sweden. It might also have originated with Finnish Swedish people. There are, especially in Värmland, there are a lot of places where there are Finnish Swedish people still to this day, obviously descendants of them, and there are suggestions that they could also have originated with them there. And we also find at the same time as this Lucia celebration started around these areas of Sweden, in Western Sweden, it also have similar things, which I think is called Lussi, in Eastern Norway started from the same time. I mean, it makes sense. Like it's so that we both kind of started very similar things at the same time, and obviously Sweden's western border is towards Norway, so it would have been around the same area. I think we're gonna now go in a little bit more briefly about who Lucia is and what made her a saint. And this can get a little bit darker. I'm gonna try and keep it very child-friendly. We can start with what Lucia means, because that is not actually dark. Lucia comes from the Latin word lux, which means light, and in Italian it still means like the light one, and it apparently in Italy has a masculine form, which is Lucio. I found that interesting. Did not know that. In Sweden we only have Lucia. But I'm gonna open another Wikipedia article here that I have upsaved, and this is about Saint Lucy, Sancta Lucia, the actual saint. As I've already told you in the beginning of the video, she lived in the year 300, which is a long time ago. Or in the 300s. I suppose she would have even lived in in the 200s, because I found one source that said that she passed away in in 304, meaning that, and it depends on what story go for. In some stories she dies, in some stories she lives until she's old. So yes, but she's at the very least an adult at the time of her passing. She doesn't. That's the difference between the stories. But she was from a rich family. She lived she lived on Sicily, the island in Italy. And she was from a rich family during the Roman Empire. And she, quite young, swore that she was going to remain a maiden all her life. And that she was going to be celibate and in honor of God. And this was at a time when Christians were persecuted by the Roman Empire. So obviously this wasn't... this was a very... this was not a normal thing to do. But when she got older, her father passed away when she was quite young, but when she got older, her mother engaged her to a man. And Lucia, having sworn that she was never going to marry, was quite upset by this. She prayed to God to save her from not having to marry this man. But around the same time, her mother got sick in an illness. I don't know what this is called in English, but it is still a thing that I think exists. It's not very common, but it's a thing where your body can't produce... Actually, the scientific thing is that your body can't produce the white blood cells, or it can't bring the white blood cells to wounds, for example. So if you have a wound that's bleeding, your body can't heal it up on its own because it can't create the white blood cells it needs. And Lucia suggested to her mother that they would travel to the grave of a saint, another saint whose English name I do not know. Do I have all three? Nice. And they traveled there, and when they got there, the saint appeared before them, and... oh no, I lost one. And the saint appeared before them and said, "Why are you asking for my help when you can save your mother yourself? Your belief have healed her." I'm not even writing that fast. Come on. Come on. I can't even, I have to write faster than this to catch you. Then I can't be writing too fast. Come on. So yeah, and that your faith has healed your mother, and then her mother promised her that you won't have to marry ever if you don't want to. You know what? I'm just gonna start running without a horse because this feels like it's bugged. Where is it's on? It's not there. It's on there, and then you have the follow. Why isn't my horse following me? I've already commanded her to follow me. I think this is bugged. I just won't care about it. Because they're stuck there. Yeah, I don't care. I don't care about them. They're bugged. This is so messy. But yeah, so she broke off the engagement with this guy, and he got quite upset. And in some versions of the story, he tried to tell her that I love your eyes. I want to to marry you because of your beautiful eyes. And it is said that she then, and this is where it gets a little bit dark for the first time. It's gonna get darker again as well, where she said that she plucked out her own eyes and gave it to him, since he loved her for her eyes and not for her. And he, and then because of her faith, it said that God gave her new, even more beautiful eyes. But this guy was quite upset that she broke off the engagement, so he told on her to the emperor, or he told her to someone, so that it was found out by the people who were persecuting Christians that she was Christian, and she got caught. And she was sent, in some versions she was said to be burned at a pyre, at stakes, kind of how they burned witches later on in history. But the flames wouldn't touch her. And this is not the version that's on Wikipedia, but the version on Wikipedia, while my videos aren't meant for children, I think there's a high likelihood that children might watch my videos still, even if that's not what I intend for them to be. Because there are Star Stable videos, so there are some things I don't want to say in here. So if you want to read that version, I'm going to link the Wikipedia articles down below as sources, so you can go look at them. They're in Swedish, but maybe they are in the translation as well, I don't know. But yeah, the emperor said she was going to be tortured, and she was tortured when she was arrested. And in one version of the story, she is said to be burned at the stakes, and but God saves her, and she doesn't burn. And in desperation, in some stories it's one of the guards, in some it's her ex-fiancé, takes a sword or a dagger, also depending on the story, and rams it through her. In some version it's through her throat, in some it's through her stomach, and that's why you wear the red ribbon. So it is quite dark, but in some version of the story she does still survive this, and she survives until adult age, and when she passes away and she is remembered as a saint. And also because, not because of, just because of her strong belief, but also when she broke off the engagement, she used her dowry to help the poor and sick and people in need on Sicily. So she used her family's money, since she was from a rich family, to help people. So that is Lucia, and while it's not precisely her, we don't celebrate her the way perhaps they would have done in a Catholic church. Sweden, first of all, Sweden is the least religious country on earth, and or generally considered the least religious country on earth. So we don't always heed Christian traditions more than just we do it because it's a tradition, but we don't always do the way you might have expected it to be celebrated. But also we don't necessarily maybe celebrate her the way you've done in a Catholic church, since most churches in Sweden are Protestant, and that's therefore quite unique that we do celebrate. I have a whole holiday dedicated to a saint and named after a saint in a way, the way Lucia is. Although quite interesting, since Lucia is the equivalent to Midsummer, it's the midwinter of while we have Midsummer and summer. Midsummer, while being originally a pagan holiday, and there are sources that suggest that there are pagan ties into the Lucia celebration as well, and that it could be a Christianized pagan holiday. I couldn't find any proof of it. Not as much as we have of, for example, Midsummer, which we know is a Christianized pagan holiday. For the pagans, it was a celebration of Freya, the queen of the gods. In Christianity, it's the celebration of, is it Joan the Baptizer, I think his English name is. So there are a lot of interesting things in our culture of the mix of our long history of Christianity, and also things tying back to pre-Christian times. But yeah, this has been me talking for almost an hour about Lucia. And it's been fun. And you didn't get to hear me sing this time, but do let me know in a comment down below if you want to hear me singing a bit falsely, because I was very tired and my voice was even worse, I think, yesterday. And also, if you enjoyed the video, please consider leaving a like and subscribing. Also, let me know if you're from Sweden. Do you celebrate Lucia? Do you enjoy the celebration of Lucia? And if you're not from Sweden, have you heard of this before? Would you like seeing a Lucia celebration, or what did you think of it when I told you about it? Yeah, I want to say thank you for watching, and I guess I'll talk to you soon. Bye bye!